are wrapping up with week 10. Literally, we have just a couple weeks left inside of phase 1, which is wild and crazy. I don't know if anybody else is freaking out because we're almost done with phase 1 or if it's just me. But let's hop on the scales and see how you did last week.
182.6.
$238.1.
So we have some standings after 10 weeks. After 10 weeks, in 6th place, down 9.6 pounds, 3.91%, Anya. In 5th place, down 13.2 pounds, 7.95%, Rosie. In 4th place, down 24.2 pounds, 9.22%, Carmen. In 3rd place, down 22.2 pounds, 9.62%, Svetlana. Which means moving up to 2nd place, down 31 pounds, 10.54%, Angela. Awesome job. And reclaiming the 1st place spot, down 25 pounds, 12.04%, Miss Katie. Awesome, awesome job. New decades this week. Svetlana is in the single 200s. Girl, you are less than 9 pounds from Wonderland. 8.5 pounds from Wonderland. It's like another 9 pounds, and it's going to say a 1 something on your scale. Like, I only know how amazing that day is going to be. The angels are going to be out. They're going to be singing. They're going to be like, that's our girl. And so awesome, awesome job. And so tonight, we're just going to dive right in because tonight's call is so timely. And here's what I love is, you know, the program's all laid out. So like I have this binder here and it actually says, you know, like, and all the notes are already in here. And it's so timely as I've been listening to your messages this last week and listening to what your flesh is struggling with. Like, you're going to be like, wow, Carmen designed this message just for us. And it's, believe it or not, there's a psychology and a method to the madness behind everything we do inside of the program. Nothing is by accident. Everything comes from like my experience, exactly where you're at. And so this is why I'll say, don't try to bullshit me, because like the struggles you're having, like, been there, done that. I spent decades struggling, decades self-sabotaging, decades losing and gaining, and then losing and then gaining, and like having how many different sizes, right? And then I would lose it. I would get in a size, I would take photos, and then I would balloon back up and feel even worse about myself because I'm like, oh man, look where I got, like, what the heck? And you know, anyone else ever notice that when you lose it and then you find it again, you always pick up a couple more when you find it again? Like, you never just find what you lost. You find what you lost and they bring a few friends with them. And so right now, when we look at these numbers, you know, listen, down 25 pounds, 31 pounds, 22 pounds, 24 pounds, like 13 pounds, 10 pounds. Like, when I look at these numbers, here's what I know, right? So even Anya, who's only down 9.6, I say only because it's less than all the other ones, but she's pregnant, like literally pregnant. And if you take a look at the fact of in the past 10 weeks of pregnancy, the baby's growing, she's healthy, the doctors are ecstatic, her blood pressures are amazing. I know her swelling's doing better than it has. Like, so she's having the healthiest pregnancy. The baby is doing great. and she hasn't gained an ounce. Like, whatever. That's crazy. And so it's really, obviously you can look at these numbers and say, okay, sure, there might be some areas that I didn't do what I wanted to do, or I could have done better here, or I could have done better there, right? But none of us are perfect. It's about progress, not perfection. If it was about perfection, we would never have anybody ever complete the program. Right? None of us are perfect. But with that, and with progress, with success, comes a trap. Comes a trap. And it is the worst thing about success is a little bit. Because we start feeling good. We start getting into clothes, fitting into clothes, feeling better, getting progress reports from the doctors, like being taken off medications. For those of us that are married, your spouses are, touching you more, grabbing your butt more, feeling you more, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But like we start feeling better, we start fitting into things, clothes are fitting better, we're having more energy. And what can happen is when we first get started in something, when we first make a decision to lose weight, oftentimes it comes from a position or a mindset or a place of desperation, a place of something has to change, a place of like, think about it. With weight, especially women in weight, typically the only time we ask for help is because we value a result more than we value our ego. Because how long have we tried to figure this thing out? Like typically the last resort when it comes to our health is asking for help. We will try to do it all on our own for years before we ask for help. So we get to a place, we make a video where we're like, please accept me. I've got to get in. I've been trying to lose weight for how long and I need help. But then and where we get excited. And we never could have imagined. Like if I would have called you and said, hey, I just watched your why video and I'm on the fence because I've got well over 100 applicants and I'm accepting 6. So if I give you a spot, are you going to follow directions? Would anyone have said, well, maybe, depends on if I feel like it. If I would have got you on the phone and said, hey, it's you or these other people, are you going to show up when you're supposed to? Or are you going to flake when you feel like it? What would you have told me? I'm going to show up. I'm going to follow the directions. Like, what would you have, if I would have asked you those questions, what percentage are you going to give the program? Are you going to show up? Are you going to follow directions? Are you going to submit your homework when it's due? Are you going to kind of do half of the work that's assigned? What would your answer have been 3 months ago? Right? Your answer would have been like, Carmen, if you, and some of you even sending your videos, if you let me in, I will do whatever you tell me to do. Please just let me in. Please give me a spot. Then a couple months go by, 10 weeks go by, 8 weeks go by, and the newness always wears off. So now it's not new. So we don't have that brand new excitement. And now when the newness wears off, we're left with the work. The work. And the work was always there. It's just excitement and the newness make the work seem funner than it is. It kind of disguises the work a little bit. It's like covering a pile of crap with glitter. Eventually the glitter, it's going to get eaten up by the crap and it's not going to, yeah, anyway. So eventually the glitter and the sparkle wears off and then you're left with the work without the excitement. Life is still happening. Life is still throwing lemons. Life's still slinging crap. We wind up self-medicating with food, falling, getting back into old habits, triggers, all the things. And this is the natural thing that happens in life. And if you look back on all the things you've ever done, all of you probably have some times where you've succeeded with weight loss. All of you probably have diets that you've done and you've lost weight with. But where were you 12 weeks ago? In a place where you made a video to be accepted into this program. Why? Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And all of us have a commitment threshold. All of us have a commitment threshold, which means the amount of time we can stay committed to something before we get bored, before we self-sabotage, before we get off track, before we lose interest. And if you look back at your track record, at your patterns, you will see it. You will see it plain as day. Like you'll see, okay, I stuck with this diet for this long. And here's the thing with most of you, because of the level of accountability, most of you have already beat your commitment threshold of your previous thing. You've already lasted through way more inside of this program than you previously had, which by the way is a huge win. It's a huge win. But this is freaking why in the baseball game, most runs are scored with 2 outs. Most runs aren't scored with no outs. Why? Because when there's no outs, the players, they're on the tips of their feet. Their legs are low. They're ready because they got to get out. There's an urgency. There's an intensity inside of the players that says, hey, we got no outs. We got to go. And all of a sudden, as soon as they get 2 outs, it's like, oh, we're only 1 out away. And this is when they let their guard down. This is when most of the freaking runs are scored. So this week, when you look at, if you just go back and listen to the markables this week, how many of you have felt that there's been a heaviness to this last week more than the others? Why? Because we're 10 weeks in and there's 2 outs. The guard's down. The guard's down. The excitement's gone. You're nearing the end. And the only way that we end strong is with intention. Ending strong never comes natural. Finishing strong never comes natural. You know what comes naturally when it comes to finishing? Either not. We don't. Think about it. Think about it. You are all in the same place I was in 2014. You've never finished it. Think about how many times you've started down this path of being healthier, of losing weight, think about how many times. For me, it had been hundreds of times I started to try to lose weight, but I had never finished. And so what that tells you is it's much easier to start than it is to finish. It's much easier to get excited about the possibility than to put in the work to get the result. Anybody can get excited about what's possible, but who's willing to put in the work to get the result? Everybody wants the testimonial. Everybody wants the before and after. That everyone's like, no way, that's her. No possible way. Everyone wants the before and after that gets accused of being photoshopped. Everybody wants that. But most people don't have the stamina. They don't have the grit. They don't have the perseverance. They don't have the, I'm doing this, come hell or high water. Quitting is off the table. It's not even an option. They don't have that grit inside of them to finish it. And by the way, that grit doesn't come natural to any of us. Any of us. And I told you guys in the very beginning, there will come a day inside of this program where all of us think about, I want the ice cream more than I want the result. Quitting would just be easier. I don't care. I want the bacon double cheeseburger. I don't care. The hell with the weigh-in. Right? We will all have those moments. I want the tequila. I want the margarita, whatever it is, right? Whatever your temptation is. Here's what you got to know. It's just a test. And it's just future shit. That's all it is. And we're literally putting our future on hold for shit. Fudgy, stinky, nasty, sticky, corn-filled, blah. Crap. Like that's what's stopping us. Something you're going to shit out tomorrow. And so we get all wrapped up in food. And listen, I ain't judging. I've been there. I've been there where I literally just whatever. I mean, gave into this stuff. But you've got to know this process, it is simple, but it does take work. There are going to be moments where you've got to break the chain. You've got to fight those things that have kept, listen, you haven't stayed fluffy for this long because you didn't want to be skinny. Are you with me? Like, we all wanted to be smaller how many years ago? And if it was that easy and you could just decide, you would have done it already. So the fact that somehow we think that the process is going to be super easy and we're not ever going to want to quit and we're not going to have hard moments, living in fantasy land. There's going to be hard moments, but that's what lets you know you're on the right road. So when that test comes, and the test always comes. And when you pass that test, there's a promotion. And then guess what? There's another one of another test. And here's the thing about the tests. When you don't pass the test, how many of you have been stuck on the same test for quite a while? When you don't pass the test, it circles back around and it comes right back. And you're either going to stay stuck right where you're at, or you're going to make a decision to pass the test, get a promotion, and then get to the next test. But until you leave this planet, you're not going to run out of tests. And it's really making up your mind. And I remind myself this all the time, because we live in a world and we're surrounded by people that are immediate gratification. Immediate gratification. I want the brownie now. I don't care if it's future fudgy poop, Carmen. You know how good it's going to taste for that 1 minute? So we sacrifice and again, I've been there, done that. Like, I've totally given into the brownie, knowing it was future poop. So I'm not coming at you from a place of I'm better than. No, I've been there. I failed the tests, and I eventually decided to start passing the tests because I got sick of failing them. But it was through these little perspective changes, these little reality checks that I had to and still have to give myself. So it's looking at, okay, this food, this binge session, this eating off my plan, this doing whatever, this, for me, a big one that I used to always give into was I needed to taste the food. That was a big one for me. And I finally decided just to say, you know what? It might need some salt, and I put salt and pepper on the table. I was like, Carmen, how long are you going to have this excuse? I had to taste it. And it was never just enough to taste it, if I'm being honest. Like, I mean, I did taste it, but I tasted it. And then I would salt it and I would taste it again, because you had to make sure it was right. And then finally I was just like, you know what? I'm going to put what I think it needs to go in there. And then I'm going to say, hey, if it needs salt, here you go. Because guess what? People naturally do. There's a reason why there's salt and pepper at the table. So they can. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? It's unedible and you have a laugh and you call and, I don't know, don't get pizza. But my point is when I started looking at everything from a test perspective and realizing that, okay, there's a hard either way, right? There's a hard either way. Is withstanding the foods that I'm tempted by, is that easy in the moment? No, it's hard. So I'm either going to pay the price of hard. There's a price either way. So we're either going to pay the hard up front by making the hard choices and saying no to our cravings, saying no to the temptations. And I promise you, if you live a healthy life, if you're at a healthy weight, if you are at a healthy BMI, the studies show, the statistics show, the back of your life is going to be easier. You're going to have less disease. You're going to have more energy. You're going to live longer. Or we can indulge in all the sleeping in, all the not working out, all the no balance, all the eating, all the drinking. We can have no balance up front, which is easier per se to have no self-discipline muscle. It's easier up front, but where do we pay the hard? On the back end.
Okay, so for these last 2 weeks, I need to shore up and recommit to what I've said before, to actually use my gallon of water, actually use my containers to measure my food, and come into the group before I give into the temptation. When I'm facing the temptation, come in and be like, hey guys, here's what's going on. Here's what's in my face. Help me say no.
This last week I've been working out at night and I know it's bad for me. It's not the best thing. So back to doing it early. And even if I eat later, ending my eating time earlier. And I've been really wanting to be more intentional about the containers. And I haven't yet, just in terms of like what my yellow is going to be and how that affects my body, and I know which things work better, so being more intentional about what those are.
I think writing everything down would probably be a good idea, because I tend to like get to like half the day and be like, okay, I've hit these containers and stuff, where I used to be writing everything down. And like today, like I've totally spaced out on the fruit, right? Because I'm not writing it down like I used to. The big one though, and I'm gonna quote Autumn, because this morning I did her workout and she said, strength doesn't come from doing what you can do, right? It's doing what you thought you couldn't do. And I've been getting kind of, because I know myself, I've been kind of lazy with the workouts. Even with Shanti, I think I did like so much more during the first month than the second. I don't know why it's all up in my head, but I need to push myself during the workouts a little bit more. So she kind of inspired me this morning. Other than that, I think that's the big one. I know I'm modifying when I actually can be doing the work. So that's
All right. So for me, what do I need to do to finish strong in these last 2 weeks? It would be recommit, not letting my failure like not quit on myself, and just recommit to what I committed that I was going to do. So I would say that is my biggest one.
My reaction this weekend wasn't super. It did take me some, like I did cheat. It did lead to a cheat. Did I cheat immediately when I had the urge? No, but I still did cheat. So definitely coming into the group when that happens, finding other tactics for when the trigger does happen, like to get out, go for a walk, do something else. Maybe I need to buy a punching bag. I don't know. That could help possibly, or do like I've done before, a primal scream. I don't know, something like that might help me. So I definitely need to work that. And before my vacation, I also told myself, like after the donut hole incident, that I need to remind my coworkers to like, well, are you supposed to be eating that? You're not supposed to eat that. Isn't that a cheat? To let them know that it's okay, to let me know, like, no, you're not supposed to be eating that. Like, there's a way to say it. They don't need to be mean about it, but like, just to like catch me, like, okay, like, no. It's like, get me back in place on track, and also stop over analyzing like the quantity of weight that I release, and celebrate the amount no matter what it is, and stop like having like these people that saying, oh well, like if you're taking this and this, you should be losing like so much more weight, and just like not listen to them. Because as we said, I think it was last week's meeting, like would I take advice from them? So if I'm not taking advice from them, why would I take criticism from them? So definitely working on, I would say those are like the top of my list to work on in the next 2 weeks. And if it has to go on working on beyond 2 weeks, it will be that. So.
alrighty.
what I need to fix in the last 2 weeks are actually putting my food into the meal prep containers. I do it, sometimes it's a little time consuming, but I'll do it on and off every other week. But the weeks that I do it, it's very easy, free flowing. I get hungry or I know it's time to eat, stir it in the microwave, ready to eat. And there's still times where for some reason my nausea kicks in. And so if it's not already in the containers, now I'm in the kitchen with the kids. I'm like, get me the red, get me the yellow. And it's like, we're all working together just to get me fed. Yeah, it's something over here sometimes. And I think I know making my vision board. I remember Carmen, you talked about that a couple days or weeks ago, making my vision board more visible, tangible, something I can hang up again, because it just seeing my goal helps me remember my why in times where I need it the most, in times of frustration. Summertime, kids are home still, and I'm all mommied out. So in times of very strong frustration, I need to see my why, because I can get in a mood. But if I can see it, like yesterday, I was talking about my why to everyone while I was not eating the food. And I was like, yeah, food, it's gonna be there next year, this, that. But just talking about it, and it reminded me of my why. And so that really made me realize that if I can see my why every day, then it could kick in times where I need it most.
As we come into this 11th week, it's keeping our goals in front of us. It's going back to that why video and reminding ourselves why we started in the first place, why we sent in a video to join this crazy program. Why are we here? Why are we fighting? Because when we can remember why we're fighting, the why gives us the will to fight. When we don't know why we're fighting, we don't have the will to keep fighting when it gets hard. But we can remember why we're doing it, all of a sudden the will comes. And so this week, I want you to take a momentary pause. Number one, I want you to look at how far you've come. How far you've come. Recognize the sprouts, recognize the improvements, recognize the progress. Don't make the mistake of looking for perfection, because you'll never find that. But recognize the progress, even if you're not at where you want to be, if you're not where you were. And then after you pause for that microsecond, then I want you to get your butt focused again and think about, I got 2 weeks left inside of phase 1. How am I going to choose to finish? What actions am I going to choose to take? And keep fighting for the future you want.